in spite of what you say you believe and what you come to know through these books, through these religions, through these philosophies, how you treat other human beings reveals if those religions, if those philosophies, if those doctrines have any merit. If you mistreat people, if you condemn people, everything that you claim you know means nothing. You see the way that the church condemned Mary Magdalene. They told Yeshua, you know what type of woman this is. And before he said that, he said, get out of here, woman. This is not a place for you. It took his presence to be there for Mary Magdalene to get exactly what she needed in order to transform her life. A man who was a spiritual man, not a religious man. See, religious doctrine condemns. New Wave doctrine condemns. And if you look at the laws of Moses, you would think that when Moses went up to Mount Sinai and he was supposedly got the law straight from God itself, it said, thou shalt not kill. Moses comes down. He saw the people who were victimized by the culture of Europe. They just got out of Europe. What do you expect? I mean, they just got out of Egypt. What do you expect? Same thing. They're out there in the desert, they're hungry, they're frustrated, they're afraid, they're scared. You've been up in the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. No one knows where you are. They feel abandoned, they're afraid. So they revert back to all of the cultures and the traditions that they picked up while they were so-called suffering in Egypt. And so you bring down this law, and one of them says, thou shalt not kill. So he comes down. He said, all who are going to follow me, come to me. Everybody came up there. Everybody except 3,000 people. 3,000 people. The 3,000 people that didn't come with Moses. Moses told the Levite priests to slaughter them, to kill them. And some of the people who the Levite priests killed, some of those were their own family members. If you're ever in London, England, and if you're ever in India, Dharamsala, India, read up. Or if you're able to get this information here, research it. Some of those people were ordered to kill their own family members. Now here I am. I'm observing this. Now you just got this law from God that said thou shalt not kill. But then you come down here and you get displeased and therefore frustrated and therefore angry. And you get in this mentality of condemning these people as negative. And so you tell the Levite priests to go against what God told you not to do, which is to kill. 3,000 people lost their lives when Moses ordered the Levite priests to kill them. As time went on, some of the Levite priests were grieved because of what they were told to do after God told Moses, thou shalt not kill. So what did Moses do? He sent those Levite priests who were suffering, as you might as well say, stress syndrome, 7 miles outside of camp, away from everyone. so they'll be able to be counseled and deal with what they did. Well, look, if what you told them to do was so correct, then why are these men grieved? To the degree they had to leave where they were. Considering the passage right before this video, the reason why that was put up is because there were some of you who got upset at what I said, which you also understand I really don't care. But it makes total sense. It's common sense. The Creator told Moses, "Thou shalt not kill." Okay. Besides the whole thing of when he told the Levite priests to go down there and slaughter those 3,000 people. And as I mentioned, a lot of those people down there were the Levite priests, family members who got succumbed by the culture of Egypt. The only thing they did was do exactly to their own women, men, women, and children what they saw the Egyptians do to them when they were back in Egypt, so-called enslaved in Egypt. Now, the first generation, they were offered to come there to work, to get paid, to help build Egypt. And then as time went on, it became a dictatorship and the people were being mistreated. And so a lot of people started to leave, and then it had gotten to the point to where Egypt wouldn't allow anyone to leave. And therefore they had enslaved the people from that point on. And they went out and they went to certain territories and they subjugated a whole lot of different territories, and they brought people there in order to help them build Egypt. I mean, that's some of the historical accounts that the church never tells you about. But with that being said, the whole thing is this. When the Creator was supposedly had told Moses, "Thou shalt not kill." Now, as I said before, we're not going to deal with what the Levite priest did. We're going to move forward. And we're going to deal with some of the laws of Moses. They say these were the laws of Moses. If a woman is caught in the act of adultery, she is to be stoned to what? Death. If a woman is caught pregnant without a husband, she is to be stoned to death. However, the Creator told you, "Thou shalt not kill." So we have a case here of where what the Creator tells Moses no, not to do, according to the laws of Moses, Moses says, yes, do this. So what the Creator says no, Moses says yes, according to his law. And you have this law that is rooted in a very discriminatory type principle. If a woman is caught in the act of adultery, she is to be stoned to death. Caught in the act of adultery. How can a woman commit adultery by herself? Where's the man? This person who was supposed to have been married, whether it's her, the one who's married, or him. Where's the man in this? Why is it that the woman is the only one that's going to be stoned to death and not the man? If a woman is caught pregnant without a husband, she is to be stoned to death. If she's pregnant and she's to be stoned to death, does Moses advocate abuse of women? Does Moses advocate abortion? Because how can you stone this woman who is with child to death and the child survive? How is that possible? And if she's pregnant, she didn't get pregnant by herself, the same as the other woman was not able to commit adultery by herself. Where are the men in these scenarios of where you are breaking what the Creator told you not to do, which is to kill? Where are the men? A woman cannot commit adultery alone, but she is to be stoned to death alone in the act. A woman cannot get pregnant alone, but she is to be stoned to death alone. Now the Bible says Joseph, the father of Jesus, the physical father of Yeshua, had got a dream one night, and this dream was supposedly had told him it was an angel, or it was God. The reason why I say those two is because there's rumor that it was an angel, and there was also rumor that it was God. For Joseph to get Mary out of there and get her to Egypt, because Herod was going to kill Yeshua in the womb of Mary, so they had to get her out of there. Is it that? Or were they afraid that if Mary started showing and people would start saying, well, I know her and Joseph are not married. Where's the father? She was in danger of the laws of Moses, and so they had to get her out of where they were, I believe it was Bethlehem, and to Egypt. Because had she stayed there, she would have been stoned to death because of being with child without a husband, because her and Joseph were not currently married. Now, this is after the Creator was supposed to have told Moses, thou shalt not kill. And when it was said, given to him, thou shalt not kill, there was no exempt there. It wasn't a thou shalt not kill except a woman being caught in adultery. Thou shalt not kill except if a woman is with child without a husband. No, the Creator said, thou shalt not kill. And that's even today. If you kill someone, regardless of your reasoning or regardless of what they do to you, to cultivate this reasoning inside of you as a man or even a woman to take someone's life, that's not going to convince the judge from setting you free. You're still going to pay a price for taking that person's life. Why is that? Because it is wrong to kill someone. Now, we could talk about self-defense, you know. However, self-defense, that explains itself. But we're not going there. Now, there was also rumored, it was said first that Moses wasn't able to cross over into the promised land. He was supposedly had charged Joshua to lead the people into the promised land. And he was supposedly had been left up in the mountains until he died. There was also written over in London, England, as I said before, in my research at Oxford University, that he was killed by one of his own people because they felt as though he lost it because of what he did with the Levite priests when he slaughtered those 3,000 people. They thought that Moses was losing his mind because he was hearing from God and he was, hearing voices based upon how people would perceive that today. This is what was asserted. And it was claimed that the person who took his life was Joshua. It was Joshua himself. Now, you can deal with that if you want. Or you can research it and find out what the facts are. And you just may find out the facts that's not gonna make you feel too good about that whole thing. And let us not forget, according to Moses, the Creator had forbid him to cross over into the promised land. This is the reason why Moses, whether it was by his own choice or by the instructions or inspiration from God, told Moses to charge Joshua to take them over into the promised land. See, all of these things, you have that, and you have Moses losing his mind and him being, you might as well say, either killed or so-called assassinated by Joshua. And he said that Moses, according to God's permission, didn't have the permission to go forward with the people. And I wonder why. Considering everything that he did that was against the law of thou shalt not kill. Now, I talked to a pastor. This was years ago, and we were talking about the whole thing with Moses going over to Egypt and liberating the people. Now, this pastor heard me say of the story, I don't really see any substance in that. And he said, why not? Because I told him that story doesn't mean anything to me. That means absolutely nothing to me. He said, why is it that Moses liberating the Hebrews and bringing them to the promised land, why is it that means nothing to you? I said, why should that mean anything to me, considering the world that I'm looking at right now, which is rooted in Egyptian culture and Roman culture? It's right there on your dollar bill. This is America. So why should I feel as though what Moses did to heal the Hebrews has any substance, have any meaning, considering what I'm looking at today? Because if it really meant anything in terms of that transpiring, then you would see the effects of that story somewhere in the environment and in the society this day. But you don't. What is going on in the world right now is equivalent to what the people were doing at the foot of Mount Sinai when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the law. That's what we're dealing with today. This is what we're seeing today. This is what we're seeing today. So is the law enough? Is the law enough? No, it's not. This is why when Yeshua had came, he said, I did not come to destroy the law. I came to fulfill it. He was there to fulfill the law. What do you mean fulfill the law? Become a manifestation of the divine implicated principles that were imbued within the law from God. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and none can get through the Father except through me. Except a man be born again in the Spirit, he cannot see the kingdom of God. He's telling you that once you become one with the divine implications that are imbued in the law, you exceed having to be under the law. And the word becomes flesh and it dwells among men. It's being in the spirit. There was a saying when I was coming up in Chicago that I used to hear all the time. And it said, he who cannot obey himself will be commanded. Okay? He who cannot obey himself shall be commanded. Now, that saying is very true. Basically, what I got from that, a man who is not in the spirit will be left to have to be up under the law. This is what I'm saying, that Yeshua was trying to let everyone know that you should never want to be complacent being under the law. I keep trying to tell people this, but people, they get so comfortable saying, well, you're being disobedient. We have to stay obedient. Obedient to what? The law. Yeshua came and he fulfilled the law, and he showed you how to be able to become one with the divine principles of the law, that you will no longer be under the law. You can be liberated from having to be up under the law. The only thing you have to do is do what is right based upon the Spirit of God, which is God's will. Just do what is right. It's really that simple. Go and sin no more. That's it. Just go and sin no more. All of this is being said because what God said to Moses, which was a definite no, Moses turned around according to his law and said, yeah, do that. Yeah, do that. And then you wonder where these writings come from over in Oxford University and over in the Dharamsala, India, and some of their writings over there, sacred writings over there, that are only sacred because they are not, they haven't been established in the common scriptures. So they're left to be considered sacred. These things are known over there. And you wonder why these things are written of Moses having to be killed by either Joshua or some of his own people. Get upset. You can get upset all you want. But a lot of us understand what Yeshua had said. I come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. If you're driving down the street in your car, and if that red light comes on, you're going to stop. You're going to fulfill that law. You're not going to break that law. You're going to fulfill that law. Are you commanded to stop? No. You know what that red light means. And therefore, you know it is not right to run a red light. So you stop. You stop instinctively because you know what that means. It's really simple. It's really simple. So that is what is meant by that. So don't get too comfortable being up under the laws. As a matter of fact, you should never live or want to live having to be commanded to do what is right. You should just do what is right simply because it's right. It's the right thing to do. So I don't have to be commanded to do anything. I do these things because it's the right thing to do.